All right, what's going on, guys? It's Hayden back with another video. Today, we got a special guest, Ryan Kors, who's the owner of Build Bright Ideas, doing around 30K a month. So I just wanted to have him on and kind of talk about his SMMA journey for any of you guys that, have been in the same boat as him. He's a true success story to the game and is just getting started. So Ryan, welcome.
Hey man, yeah, thanks for having me. Been a long journey. It definitely isn't an overnight process, although it might look like it. It is a lot of eating dirt, eating dirt, eating dirt, eating dirt, and then something clicks, and then it's just rocket, and then you just keep going. And right now, where I'm experiencing a little bit of pullback, but I hit 35K, and now it's about dialing in retention and then popping up again.
Right.
So it's putting people in place, hiring, and that is the biggest learning curve so far is hiring out of everything. It's a challenge. Sure.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that too. So yeah, so that's Ryan, you guys. We're super excited to jump into this. So Ryan, I really want to talk about kind of your beginnings in SMMA and in entrepreneurship and how you got started.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in Santa Barbara, California, and never did well with authority. Had family telling me to go to college, do this, and I actually dropped out twice. I went back again because COVID happened, and I went back, visited family over there, and they convinced me to go back to college. Went, aced my classes, and I told them it was in accounting. Aced my classes, told them, hey, look, here are my grades. This is making me depressed. I'm done. I'm going and starting a business, basically. And I started doing wholesaling real estate, got a couple houses under contract, but I didn't feel ethical about doing it because I'm basically convincing somebody to sell their house to me at like not to me, but to someone else at a very dirt cheap price. So I was like, this is not it. And I started looking into, well, how do I get leads for those people? Because a lot of the challenge is you're sitting there and dialing new homeowners or old homeowners all day long, and it's just like a pain. So I had a friend that hit me up and was like, hey, I started making content about marketing. And he said, hey, I see that you do marketing. What about solar? And I was like, solar. I haven't really heard anything about solar. I had no idea what solar was. And I started looking into it, started running a campaign for him. And then it actually we never got to the point of running the Facebook ads. He just gave me a small retainer. I built out the funnel, I built out everything, and I sent him the ad scripts to film. Never got back to me with it, but then I just kept going with that. But the problem that I had was then I got shiny object syndrome, and I got into SEO, and I got this because I didn't see an immediate result. So I was learning all these marketing techniques, but I wasn't dialed in on one channel.
So you weren't dialed in on one channel, and that kind of led you to fall down the rabbit hole a little bit more. And so when did it become like, okay, you had your first sort of client, they're paying you a retainer, but you're kind of doing all these things, you don't really have a direction. What kind of changed for like actually like, okay, this is my niche, this is what I'm doing, I'm only having one product, one service. Like when did that change sort of happen?
So when AI and everything first, I mean, AI has been around for a while, but it's become mainstream. And when that became a mainstream topic, I was doing AI automation agency, I was doing SEO, and all of these random full service marketing agency methods, but I wasn't dialed in on one avatar and helping one specific niche. I was focused on solar and roofing, but even on my website, it was like AI branding for smarter marketing. It was just so vague that I couldn't exactly target the right person. So where the pivotal moment was, is I was so focused on learning. And I'm sure there's a lot of people, if you haven't hit 10K a month, you're probably watching a ton of YouTube videos and you're telling yourself just one more video and I'm right there. But no amount of information is going to save you from taking action. And I was avoiding sales. I was avoiding doing my reach outs. I was avoiding doing what I knew deep down I needed to be doing, which is having more conversations. I straight up was just not talking to enough people about what I have.
Yeah.
And it was on and off, taking on clients, losing clients, giving this, doing this service, doing that service. And it was like I think month 11 of me really focusing on marketing that I applied, and this was a limiting belief that I had to make a decision on this. I saw Dan Henry make a post, who, if you don't know who he is, he's a marketer who's had a lot of success.
He's very
And
well. That's
yeah, yeah, he basically said, hey, I'm doing these business audits. And I was like, look, this could be the pivotal moment. He could tell me what I'm not seeing, but I have to sacrifice my ego. I applied and hopped on a Zoom call with him, and he just tore me apart. And he sold me on myself. And he's like, look, dude, you're being lazy. You have to face sales. You're avoiding sales. Dive into sales. And he sold me on myself, which is a really weird feeling. So instead of being sold on a product, imagine somebody showing you why you need to believe in yourself and take action. And so that was the pivotal moment, mixed in with this guy, Dylan Blias, I believe that I'm saying his name right, with Millionaire Closers. I took his sales framework, which I send anybody that asks me how to get into sales, I just send them over to that guy. Super cool dude. That mixed with my own self-belief in leaning into sales, that's when I got to 15 and then 30K a month.
So it's
just
really
focus on ads.
yeah, it's really that pivotal moment of someone calling you out on what you actually had to do, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So that happened. Let's say at that moment you had a couple of clients, but you're doing random services, right? Would you say? Yeah. Okay. So, you're doing these random services and then you're just probably at like 5K starting to get to 10K. What actually, like, was that the biggest breakthrough that made you get to 10K?
Yeah, so what happened was weird. So I had a client or a prospect from previous. I basically, I had in the beginning, I had a lot of people that would buy my services, but I was underpricing it like $150 a month or
Yeah.
something like that,
Of course they're
just to
gonna.
cover the cost. Yeah, but to cover the cost of like go high level and cover the cost of like the funnel and the domain and stuff like that. So I would charge a really low ticket price, but people wouldn't take it seriously. So a lot of the times what would happen is we would never even get started running a campaign. So I had one guy that we didn't start running his campaign. They went in as like a double, they were going in on it together. It was like two guys. And then the original guy just never went anywhere. And then the other guy reached back out to me. He's like, hey, I'm ready to launch a campaign. And this was after talking to Dan Henry. And I was like, okay, cool. I launched his campaign, leads. And it was just bing, 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 bing. Then he told his friends. And then that just started an explosion of referral chains, like, to me, because it just crushed so well. And it's still crushing. Still have him as a client. He's still sending me people. And then those people are telling more people. And so that has just been explosive. That's what got me to 10K a month, is just having those conversations and then focusing in on what I was good at, because I ran a campaign previously where I was getting leads in for a client, but the problem was he didn't know how to sell them. So, because I listened to his sales approach and it was really not good. And so I wrote off Facebook marketing. I was like, Facebook doesn't work. Like, I'm going to do SEO. That's going to be better. And that's when I got down that rabbit hole. But when I went back to the Facebook ads, that's when, and focused in on it, that's when I rocketed. Is just focus.
Yeah, I can kind of say that I started the same way and I got to 10K kind of the same way, but I think it's more of an anomaly. I don't think this is like normal to where, I started free services, something kind of similar to you, low barrier to entry. I got this client, he was struggling trying to rank on Google and his just website was crap, but he was good med spa in Nashville, Tennessee. And so that started me off on my niche. I didn't even know what a niche was back then. It just so happened my first client was med spa. And so he's like, I can't pay you, bro, but if you can help me, then we'll figure something out eventually. So 3 months completely for free, learning everything from SEO to Google ads. I didn't even know what Facebook ads was at the time. And I just didn't even get into it. So this is all I was doing. And by the end of that 3 months, I ranked in #1 on Google by just doing some random SEO shit. And this was for keywords like Nashville Botox, Nashville Med Spa, Nashville Laser Hair Removal. And his business skyrocketed from that because there was so much search during that time. And so he was just getting phone calls like crazy. And then I remember him writing me my first check for like $2,000. And then he's been paying, that was like 3.5 years ago. So he's been paying me every single month $2,000 for managing his website and doing SEO to this day. He's still
Right.
there. So that one relationship, that one doing the extra work, figuring it out on my own, led to me getting so many more clients. So just from him, I got like 5 other referrals, and then I was at 10K.
That's awesome.
And that led me to get into Facebook advertising because leads aren't as predictable with SEO and Google Ads. And then in the med spa industry, every niche is different, right? So if you're doing like plumbing or something like that, I would recommend Google because no one's going to see an ad on Facebook and be like, oh yeah, my toilet's exploding. No, it's going to be like their toilet's exploding. I'm going to go to Google and call the first plumber that's available, right?
Right.
So there are services that are better for each niche. But that being said, like getting to 10K is tough. I would say the best way to do it is like me and Ryan, where you do focus heavily on the product and the service, because you'll never have as much time as you do now to actually focus on client results. Like it just gets harder to find the time. Like for me now, if I take on a client's account, because I have employees and everything like that, I don't have that time. I'll have to do that on the weekend to try to figure out a new strategy or something like this. So you guys have time right now. So I recommend like going above and beyond to get those results for your clients.
Yeah,
Now,
because
yeah,
it might seem like you're not making any progress, but you're making massive progress that you can't really, you can't put it in the words, or you can't have a perception of it because you haven't seen a result. But if you go and have a conversation, let's say you put 6 months worth of work in, and then you went back and talked to yourself 6 months ago, you would know a lot more than the kid 6 months ago. No, you would have that experience, even though you might not have the monetizable result yet. You still have an advancement that other people getting started wouldn't have, and you're still 6 months ahead. You can't expect to have a result without putting in the work first. It would be unreasonable for you to wake up and be like, I'm starting an SMMA today. Okay, cool. We just hit 10K a month in our first day. Like it wouldn't make any logical sense at all, because you don't know how to navigate it. You have to learn the fundamentals just to even know how to present the solution the right way, where somebody that isn't a marketing expert can understand it as valuable and not a commodity. Because that's what's going to get you the sale.
No, I agree 100%. And I kind of take this example as like going back to when I first started. Before I even got that first client, I made a website for myself, and I was trying to rank Jump Forward Media as Nashville, SEO agency. So everything that I did on my first client, I first tried on myself. So a lot of you guys don't understand, like, it is the product, it is the service, this shit does work, but you guys don't have the reps. And the easiest way to get the reps is like either get a client to come on for a free trial, they pay for their ad spend. They're literally letting you learn for free. I don't know if you guys realize that, but you're learning an invaluable skill set for free. So super important just to do it. I mean, if you even have to spend $10 a day to figure it out on your own account, just make a fake Facebook page, call it San Diego Med Spa or San Diego, whatever your niche is, right? And I'm in San Diego, that's why I said that, but like, and just get leads in, see if it works, right? You're gonna be way better off actually launching that client account. Like, to be honest with you guys, I had no idea what SMMA was. I really didn't. I was in this like digital space back in 2018, and I thought nobody knew about what I was doing just because I was unaware of like YouTube and everyone posting these videos. I seriously knew nothing. So you guys are in a way better spot. It took me like 3.5, 4 years to learn this stuff. And so if you could take away from what me and Ryan is saying is just like, get started, take action, and don't be afraid to do the hard things that is actually going to get you the return that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Now we've talked about, a lot of shit when it comes to getting to 10K. Let's talk about like low points, because this is something no one ever talks about. in SMMA, it's always wins, join my course, do this, do that. It's never like, okay, let's be real about SMMA. So tell me a little bit about your low points. I'll share some of mine after and we'll get into it.
Cool. Yeah. First of all, I'll say the best way to set yourself up for failure in this industry is what a lot of people will tell you on YouTube, which is go get some sales in and scramble to figure out fulfillment. Yeah, cool. You need to get a client so then you can learn fulfillment, but don't pass that fulfillment off to somebody else. That is a quick way to fail. You need to have an understanding of what it is you're providing. So that's number one. And the hard point and the lowest point, I would say, is that sacrificing not getting paid in the short term to then later get paid in the long term. A lot of people cannot put in the work without seeing a direct result in the short term. But you need to realize that you're investing in your brain in what you understand. If I go back down to zero somehow, I can go into any niche, spend a month learning it and its angles, and get a client in that first month. At least one client, like at least one client.
Yeah.
Because I know the process is involved. I know that, oh, hey, I got to do this kind of DMing on Facebook. Okay, if I have a little bit of capital, I can hire someone to make some cold calls and call, or I can go and do cold calls and call. There's a lot of things that you can do to get clients. But I would say right now, I'm going through a period of, I had massive growth, but with that, it doesn't last forever because you hit a wall. And now I've hit that wall a bit and I'm figuring out, well, how do I increase the retention while also keeping sales on a good, a healthy pace and dialing in product. So I've experienced some churn, but nothing too crazy. What a lot of people think is, oh, you'll experience churn because just strictly because your product might not be the best, but there's other external factors. And what I've learned is at first you're trying to scramble to get clients, right? So you'll take on any client. And I had this conversation with other business owners and they're like, dude, pretty soon, and if you haven't realized this already, you don't want to take on every client because it's going to limit your results. For instance, I took on a rep who has an alcohol problem and he punched a Jamaican dude in the face at a bar and was like, hey, I'm suspended from my company. We got to pause the campaign. And so that's not in my control, super random. That's not in my control. And then I have to have a call with a client later where she's like, oh, I need to pause this. It was our first week together, got her in a deal. But she's like, oh, but I'm not going to get paid out until 3 months later or like a month and a half later because solar stuff and roofing stuff can take a while to process. And she's having like a bit of a crisis on a belief system of maybe she's not going to be able to afford month 2 because the second round of payments aren't going to hit or the first round of payments aren't going to hit. So I have to help her navigate that situation. So even though we did get deals in and we did make her money and she is in the green, I have to help her understand that, hey, we're still in the money. We just got to figure out, well, what do we have to do to navigate your situation specifically? But yeah, those are some of the challenges is just client relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, no, I completely agree. Like there's some things that are out of your control and some things that don't directly reflect on your actual work. And it goes like, I'll say one of the biggest things that Ryan just mentioned was that taking on the right clients is really important. I had the same problem with my agency where we were at our maximum point last year. We had 80 to 90 clients, but we were selling like low ticket. It wasn't like super high ticket. It wasn't software by any means, but it was like ad spend mixed with service fee for 1,500, which is like nothing. So we're making all this revenue and our company looked great, but on the outside, like churn was happening quickly. Of course, anyone signed up for it because we're calling all the leads. It's $1,500 and we cover the ad spend. So like, obviously anyone's going to be like, yes, let's do it. So we found out a really good offer that people wanted, but we brought on the wrong clientele. So there's all these like single location body contouring clinics that were just banking on us. So a lot of them did grow with us and we helped them like scale to like 50,000 a month. But a lot of them had like $2,000 to $3,000 to their name. And so I was like, why the fuck are we working with these people? That's like, we shouldn't have been working with them, right? And so you live and you learn with those type of things, and it's always a learning game. But if you can actually sit down and listen to this whole conversation with me and Ryan and take what we're saying, because we've actually done it, and just keep it into consideration while you're growing your agency. Now, the next thing I will say that Ryan touched upon was that delayed success or delayed gratification, whatever Alex Hermosi calls it. Because I can guarantee some of you guys watching this aren't going to do what it takes to actually get there. For example, if I could guarantee you that in 4 years, just like me, you'd be at $80,000 a month with your SMMA, but it would take you 4 years, and those years are going to suck. A lot of bad shit's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of wins, but a lot of losses, a lot of late nights, a lot of, finding yourself, who you are, figuring out, is this what I want to do? Clients hitting you up, things going bad, you spending a lot of money on your own ad spend that wasn't supposed to happen. All these different challenges, and I'm not like a huge success story by any means. Like $80,000 a month for 4 years isn't crazy, but there's nothing really crazy about me. I'm just like a normal dude. I haven't gone like insane with my business. It's just hard work day in and day out for 4 years. And that's got me to 80K. Now, the relationships I've made, everything that I'm putting together at this point, I know this is just the start. And then 4 years from now, I'm going to be probably at like 5x what I'm doing now because of the infrastructure and everything that I'm building slowly. So it's that delayed gratification. And I'm not one to chase like a quick shiny object. I just know that, hey, I could have switched niches 1,000 times because my niche doesn't have that much money. Like med spas, you could think like on paper, they're all, making a shitload of money. It's really not. I'm in the day-to-day. I understand that the profit margins aren't as high as some of these other businesses. And so, yes, I could have switched niches at any point, but I like the fact that it's harder to break through and that no one's really running the show in the med spa niche, realistically. So
Yeah,
that's something you guys have to think about is like, for some people, yeah, it happens, 90 days, 6 months, a year, they can get to 100K. But most of the times those people won't last. I've lasted for 4 years and we're just on a slow growth trajectory and we build the business the right way. You know what I mean? And so
I also think people have the wrong expectations. When you're broke, you're doing anything. You're like, dude, if I can just get to 10K, that's like your whole aspiration. But what, you're going to stop there? It's nonstop. It's not hitting 10K and then you slow down, you go to Bali, you go travel around. You'll go quickly back to 7K, 6K, 5K. Once you start, you cannot stop. So if you do make the decision to do this, it's a lifelong journey until you make an exit out of your company if you're going to do that. And then you can take a step back and be like, okay, where do I want to go from here? But when you're in the weeds of it, once you hit 10K, you realize that's nothing. And then you hit 20K and you're like, this is nothing as well. And then 30K, you're like, this is nothing. And I have this boatload of stress. I can't slow down now. I got to keep going. And what people don't understand about this is it comes with a lot of discipline, and discipline isn't learned overnight. It's a muscle that you're training. You don't wake up. You think David Goggins just woke up and he's just like, this is who I am now. It was a slow, gradual process of pain and accepting that pain for what it is and appreciating, wow, I got through that pain. What's next? Like if I got through that, I can get through the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And you look at your track record and you start looking back at, I remember when I thought the world was ending, but it didn't. So that can give you some relief that if you are experiencing a lot of pain, you're doing something right. Yeah. You have to be feeling the pain, but you can't get into this focused on the money. You have to do it out of respect of the game. And if you don't fall in love with the process, you're not going to get very far. And you might get to 20K a month, but getting past that, building teams, showing up when you're supposed to show up, in my personal opinion, if your goal is to just go travel around, you can do that. But I don't think you're going to get very far,
Yeah.
personally.
First of all, we're never ones to sell you a false dream. So this shit isn't easy. It's never going to be easy. Creating a business is never like, there are some get rich quick schemes out there and you can get lucky, like 100%. You can get lucky with something like Bitcoin, day trading, something like that. Odds are you're going to get crushed, but there is a chance that you're going to get lucky and then it's kind of hands off, right? There's a couple things like that in life, like affiliate marketing. You could get really lucky. Your videos could blow up on YouTube and then everyone uses your affiliate link and you make a bunch of money. That's like an anomaly. Like, I don't know any friends, anyone that's ever got rich like that, but I guess it happens. This is the opposite of a get rich quick scheme. You are working way more than a 9 to 5. It's never not going to be a 9 to 5, and the gratification is way delayed. So people are going to think you're kind of crazy. They don't really know what you're doing. And until you get to a point where you have a full team, you have a COO, you even have a CEO, and you replace yourself, which doesn't happen until you're at like 150, 200K for the most part. That's when you're finally a true legit business owner. And most people don't want to take the time to get there. That's where I'm trying to go. And those are my next big hires in the next 2 to 3 years. And I know I still have 2 to 3 years of work to get there unless something explodes in my business and it just takes off even quicker. But we're playing the slow game. You know, we have mentors, people to look up to, good ones on YouTube, just like Stevie and people that have actually done this stuff. And he's taken a long time. Like, his success isn't overnight, right? Like, a lot of these people that had success overnight, they're out of the agency game and now they're selling you a course. So it's a long game. That's why people can't last. It's truly a long game.
You have to be a bit delusional and you have to be almost psychotic to think I can be this image in my head. And you have to outwork the self-doubt. Every single day I wake up in fear. Like, I'm terrified. Every morning I'm waking up terrified. But that doesn't stop me from taking action. That doesn't, the fear needs to be a fuel for you. Because when you start taking action, you start proving your fear wrong. Because like Alex Hormozy says, the work just needs doing. And so if you do the work, the likelihood that you see failure dramatically decreases. So if you feel super stressed out, and probably psychologists will tell you opposite, oh, you got to relax and chill out. No, you got to get to work. Like, if you're super stressed out, you're super anxious, you're not making decisions. There's decisions that you need to face. You need to make them right now. Even if I would rather make a decision and it maybe be a wrong one than let it drag on and that decision never gets made. And now you are slowly seeing yourself deteriorate. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's wrong, but I'd rather make decisions quickly than not make them at all.
You're right. And then just wrapping up this topic again is like, I want you guys to understand like the realism portion of the agency space, right? But at the same time, there's huge opportunity. And the opportunity is that if you actually show up every day and do the work over a long enough period of time, you will make a lot of money and you will have an asset and you'll be way better off than the person you were a couple years back. Just because, let's say worst case scenario, you go back to zero, you have to refund some clients, you're down a bunch of money. And it was 3 years, 4 years of work. And now it's all, it blew up. Tons of agencies, this happens to them. They get to like 50K and then everything implodes and they lose all their clients. They lose all their money. Well, then you have the opportunity to now start again. This is a low barrier entry business, which is awesome. It doesn't take that much startup capital. You can just do outreach. You can just do all these things to get your first client. You don't need a business location. You don't need this, you don't need that. It's all virtual. So that's the greatest part about the agency, is that like you can do it. Like anyone can do it. But the thing that I will say here is that if you're truly gonna do this, give it time. Give it time, because success stories that happen overnight are completely out of the ordinary. So just do what you're supposed to do. Wake up every day and do the hard tasks that like Ryan's talking about, and you're gonna get there. It's just gonna take you some time.
Yeah. And it is the most rewarding thing in the world, especially when you start getting client results. that's a better feeling than making money,
I agree.
because you're putting food on somebody else's table, especially when they have kids. It's a crazy surreal feeling when you're actually doing something and it's working. It starts off as an idea, you have a vision, and when you start actually climbing that mountain and getting there, you become obsessed with it. And if you don't become obsessed with it, you're in it for the wrong reasons. So through that, you're going to learn more about yourself and become someone that is unrecognizable than the person you were a year ago or 2 years ago. It's just inevitably going to happen because your business is only going to grow as much as you. So if you just want to be at 10K a month, then you'll just be at 10K a month and you'll learn enough skills to hit 10K a month. But if you want to keep climbing that ladder and that mountain, you're going to have to keep stacking your skills. And it's fun. You create a system, right? So you figure something out, create a system, and then train someone else to do that system. And now you work on a new system. What's our problem? Okay, cool. Let's build a system around that. Let's try it out. Oh, that system's trash. Okay, cool. Let's try something else out. But that's why you're getting your time back, so that you can go and figure out a new system so that you can get to the next level. Because most times you're not going to find somebody that already has just this system that you need. Or, I mean, I guess sometimes if you see people advertising to you on a Facebook ad, like, hey, agency owners, you want to do this? But at the end of the day, I mean, those can be spotty, because it's like, well, a lot of the guys that are like, oh, I owned an agency, well, why don't you run one anymore? Like, what happened there?
Yeah,
Unless they took an exit, like Hunter, he took an exit, so that makes
makes
a lot of
sense.
sense.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's because they're not, they have this short-term success and then they wanted to get rich quick scheme. That's exactly what's going on there. Is like people won't like, if you have the mindset to outlast everyone, just like Hermosi has that mindset, right? It didn't happen overnight for him. It was a long time, and then he had huge growth, right? Which is all what we're trying to do. So you have to outwork everyone, but also have the mindset to understand that if I just outlast everyone and I can just be consistent. So like my months maybe are only at 20K, but they're consistently at 20K. Like, so I'm
Right.
losing clients and I'm gaining clients. I'm losing, like, that's way better for me than someone that makes 20K and then it goes back down to 10K and then to 5K and then maybe goes back up to 30K because they had a good sale months. And then it's like, if you're consistent, like if you look at my numbers from Stripe, it was consistent. It was like 5, 5, 7, 7, 10, 10, 12, 12, 12, 12, 16, 18, 22, 22, 22. Like it just kept going like that. There's like no dips. It's like steady for the past 4 years. Just finally here we are. And now I can look back 4 years from now and be like, holy shit, we're at 80K and now we're at like 400K or wherever we're trying to go. So if you can outlast everyone, you're gonna make a huge difference in your just ability to have an asset and exit one day if you want. Now, going back to a point that I didn't cover. So I briefly went over this, but I want to just wrap up that point. I went over worst case scenario. So worst case scenario is that your business flops, you go back to zero, but you learn all these skill sets so you can start another agency, or you can go get hired at another agency at a big time position because you know all these skill sets now. Like you can run all these things. So like your fear, you can just throw it in the back burner, because I know if my business flopped, I could go get hired at any agency that I want in San Diego or anywhere in the world for that matter, and have a top tier position as like a COO, just because I know I'm really good at talking to people, I have the qualifications, and I could easily do it. And I know I'd get hired for that shit in a heartbeat. Even like I have friends that are agency owners that have tried to hire me in the past. So same shit, like your fear, just knock it out the window because you're actually learning a skill set. So Ryan, let's end this conversation by this. So you're at 30K, you're facing a little bit of churn. So what is your game plan, if you could summarize it up in a couple minutes, of what you are doing now to scale, and what is your next like pillars of goals for, let's just say 2024 and kind of onwards?
Yeah, so I hired a VA, took a while. I had to go through like 6 hires. I didn't set expectations properly, and that was 100% my fault. But once I figured out how to set those expectations properly, have a meeting every morning, wasn't doing that. so that we can go over the previous day. She's now dialed in. There's been a bit of a slowdown on the appointments being set there, because you start seeing like, oh, hey, we already hit up this person. So I have to create follow-up sequences. So that's one of those channels. I also have some guys cold calling to set appointments, and then I'm going to train them to close. That was an unexpected channel, but the main one that I'm cracking is paid ads, and that'll take me to 50 plus. So there has been a little pullback as I'm trying to build systems, and I'm trying to sustain and make sure that exactly what you said doesn't happen, where you go to 35K and then you go back down to 20 and then you go back up to 30, and then you want to take a breather and make sure that you can make like stabilize everything. And then
I'm actually a big fan of hiring VAs kind of early in your career. Like once you get to like 10K, I'm a big fan of hiring a couple VAs and making sure that they're a good fit. And if they are, training them on everything. Like in the beginning, I just had a couple employees when I was at like 10 to 20. But I was really focused on training them on everything from go high level to Facebook ads, so I could get the whole onboarding process off my plate. So I wasn't doing any ads. I figured out the strategy, it was working. So I freed up my time to work on sales and other things to grow the company. So like, you're gonna thank yourself in the long run, at least if you have now you have at least the background of, you have hired someone, even if it didn't work out, you still have that experience now, and you build upon that experience. It's like anything. It's like sales. The more sales you do, the better you get. Hiring is the same thing. You're not gonna hire great people right off the bat. Very hard to. I still have huge struggles hiring, just because there's always that unknown. Like you can have someone that's perfectly qualified on paper, and for some reason it just doesn't work out. They find a better job, whatever. So you have to always be training and have more people on your team, because then you don't have an asset. If it's just you, it's not an asset.
Yeah, you have to look at them as an asset. And what I'm realizing is your business is alive. Like it's like a breathing thing. So when you just leave people to do whatever they want, and you don't have some sense of accountability in place where you're showing up to morning meetings, you have your cameras on, you take part in the conversation, people aren't involved, then they're going to deteriorate. So you have to nurture them, right? It's your team. So you have to look at it as this is almost it's a family, right? Like you have to ask the person, oh, hey, like, how is everything going at home? Like, how are you? Okay, your weekend was good. Fantastic. So here are some of the objectives that we're trying to get done this week. Did you see any complications last week that are preventing us from hitting those goals this week? And then go over the challenges they're facing. There's a whole lot of things, but you have to focus on the relationship than just demanding things of people. Because when you start just demanding, they're like, screw this guy. I don't want to work for this guy. You have to focus on building loyalty.
I agree. Loyalty is really important. And then there's times to where you make hires, and then your job now becomes managing those people that you hired. But then even further, you can't lose touch with the day-to-day work either, because here's a great example. Someone on my team, I won't say any names, they just had someone pass away in their family, and it was a really important person, obviously, to them, and big thing. And it just happened when we signed on like so many clients all at once. And so as a business owner, I had some things that I needed to think about there. And I was just like, all right, take as much time as you want off. Don't worry about us. I'll take over your job position. And so now I'm doing his position until he gets back. And, I could easily say, well, you still have to work and do all these things. But like, that's not the right approach, right? So the approach is take your time. I got your back. Don't even think about work. Log out of all the shit. Come back when you're ready. Because he's been a part of the business for 2 years. Obviously, he's loyal. He's done all these things. And I know how to do his job role. So I'm not going to be lazy and try to off-put that to someone else who might not do a good job. I'm going to step in and take over. And so you need to have that accountability. And that shows your team what kind of person you are and what kind of business you're running. You know what I mean?
100%. I tell this like to my VA. I tell her, hey, look, I'm gonna deal with this account, because had an issue with DMing from one of my personal IG accounts. She's like, oh, it keeps logging me out. And I said, don't worry about it. I'm gonna handle those DMs. And I still do. I'm like, hey, I'm doing everything that you're doing until I find another person to handle those accounts. Like, I'm still doing this stuff. So they see that I'm doing, when gaps need to be filled, just like you said, you have to be in there to fill those gaps. And a really big misconception where it is possible to get to this point, but it's a long way down the road, where people are like, oh, I want to set my own hours. Like, it's nonstop, man. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
cool. You can say, hey, I can take a break right now or take a couple hours off. But if a client texts you, you got to jump, like,
The only time this switches is when you hire a badass COO that is an extension of yourself. Then the only problems you're dealing with are the problems that the COO can't solve. So once you get to a point, that's the next point I'm trying to get to. That's the biggest hire, and just think about yourself and what you're doing as a COO. Because you basically are, you're not a CEO. I'm not a CEO. I'm a COO at the end of the day. All problems come back to me and then I solve them. So like that will only be solved once you have that person in place. And that's the hardest position to find at any company. 100% is the person that it all comes back to. So that's either the COO or the CEO, but for the most part, it's the COO because they're dealing with all the back end stuff.
right. And so when you look at that, the reason why we're not CEOs or out of touch right there is because you have to become that person that is ready to handle passing that off. You need to be able to train that person on, here's how we do things at this company. So if you don't have it dialed in to the point where you can pass that off, so if you haven't hit 10K a month, how can you pass off to a media buyer how to fulfill client accounts? Like, you don't understand how to do it. So how do you train them properly on how it's supposed to go, like how it's supposed to happen with your company? It just doesn't make sense. You have to learn all of these skills. And that's why cutting corners is the fastest way to failure. You have to face those hard challenges, those roadblocks dead on. 99% of people won't do that. And so if you're a person that is going to cut the corner, you're not going to break through to the next level. So
Yeah, I would say like some of the biggest aha moments for me is when something goes wrong in our agency and everyone hits me up to solve the problem. And I get everyone on a Zoom and I fix it in like 5 to 10 minutes because I've already handled this before. It's happened. I know exactly what to do. And so the respect that the employees now see is just like, oh, he's not just the owner. He actually knows how to do everything and then some. So like, even if it's a problem that is brand new to me, or like I've never seen this happen before. For example, let's just say like, a Facebook page and ad account is completely on, ads are running, everything's good, but for some reason it's not getting any data. Let's just say that's the case. It's like some weird anomaly happening. Like everything looks perfect, but nothing's running, even though it's supposed to be running. Let's just take that as an example. I will figure that out. I will go in and be the person that figures it out, and then I'll make a standard procedure about it, because I can't have someone on the team really try to figure that out when I don't even know how to figure it out, right? And so that's been something that's a breakthrough for me, is like the amount of respect you get from your employees when you can actually do the work that they're doing and show them how to do it and do it quickly and know it just like that, is how you become a really good owner, and how you have like long-term employee retention, because they truly do respect you and everything that you do.
and you also have to acknowledge them for what they're doing and show them why what they're doing is making an impact within the company. Because for me personally, I don't do well with authority, nor will I do something without seeing a purpose to doing it. I just won't do it. If I don't see why I should be doing this, I'm not going to do it. It's why I didn't like school. Like, why am I learning this? Like trigonometry, I have no plans on using trigonometry in my life. It's
Yep.
not relevant to me. So if I don't see the purpose in doing something, I'm not going to do it. So because I know that, well, maybe other people feel this way too. So let me show them why what they're doing is important, because then they'll feel valued and they'll find a purpose in the work that they're doing, and they'll want to, it's not that they'll want to do the work, they'll do the work because they see how it moves the needle.
Yeah.
And they have to understand that they're valued.
Yeah.
So
And I would also say like core values are extremely important. As you get a team in place and you start to have these morning meetings every single day, the last thing that we do before we hop off our 15-minute morning meeting, before we break into departments, is we go over core values, and we have different people read each one on the team. We have 5 core values. It's really important. So everyone stays upon the mission, the core values every single day until it's ingrained in their mind. And that makes everyone on the team work better. And then like some really easy ones, every 2 weeks, we have a team happy hour at the end of the day on Friday. So we have one today. And it's literally like a 30-minute to an hour meeting where we all have a beer and just shoot the shit, not talk about work. And it's great. So
On a virtual call?
on a virtual call, everyone just grabs
You guys badass. That's so cool.
Yeah, we call it the team happy hour. It's epic.
Yeah.
And you start to connect
Awesome.
with people on a deeper basis, and they start talking about their family, their friends, what they got going on in the weekend. It's really cool. No pressure from work, and it's really cool.
Totally gonna implement that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's really cool. Because it's so hard to build culture in a virtual company. You know, you can't just be there and be like, let's go, guys. Like every morning you can hold people accountable. But that's why it's so important to be checking in and making sure that people are okay. Like they're humans. You
yeah,
know, do you ask your friends how they're doing? Yeah, like, hey man, I've noticed you might be going through a hard time. It's the same thing. You got to treat people how you would want to be treated. Think about if you, I mean, worked at a company, would you want your boss just demanding things of you, but and never asking, oh hey, like
How are
what's
you?
going on with you, man? You know, like getting to know you.
Yeah,
It's all about relationships and loyalty. And people will say, oh, I got this from Layla Hormozy, where she was basically saying how a lot of people think that your employees shouldn't like you, like, or don't have to like you. And she's like, I disagree. They should like you. Like, why, if you can make somebody's day better, why wouldn't you do that? Like,
yeah.
why would you make their life harder? And, you know, I
I
don't know.
agree. I agree with that 100%. One of the most fulfilling times I've ever had in my agency is when my media buyer has been with us for like 2.5 years. Last year for his birthday, we flew him out to San Diego, and he kicked it with us for a whole weekend, showed him a good time, paid for all his shit, took him to a bunch of restaurants and stuff. And he's a big soccer fan, so we watched the World Cup. I believe this was last year, maybe it was a little longer ago. But it was the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my agency. Like someone from, a third world country, bringing them out to San Diego, showing them a good time, hanging out. It just built the relationship so much more. And I was like, wow, like this, like just building this made that happen and made these relationships.
Yeah,
So
it is amazing. I mean, I'm on such a, I mean, this stuff is fairly newer to me, especially the team building stuff and having a moment that relating to that where it's like, I'm not a parent. I've never been a parent, right? But to put myself in the shoes of a parent when if you could teach your kid, oh, hey, here's how you hit a baseball, right? Like, and they keep striking out, and then they hit that ball. It's like, oh my God, you get that like proud moment. And so when you hire someone and they keep striking out, they keep making mistakes, they're learning this, there, and that. But then when they get it, you get this proud moment and you're like, oh my God, like this is awesome. It's a weird feeling, but it's like I knew you could do it and we got you there. Like, let's keep it up. It's just such a fulfilling thing where you see that they're excited. They're like, oh dude, I got our first appointment. I'm like, oh my God, I'm stoked for you. Like, it's not about the appointment itself, it's that they're finding progress and also figuring out what their goals are. Like, if somebody wants to be a closer, we'll say, hey man, like we can take you to becoming a closer, but you need to be able to understand how to set an appointment. You need to set your own schedule, and then you can start closing your own deals. Giving people a roadmap of growth, at least for me, I think is really important because if I didn't know where I was going in a company or how the opportunity can scale to being a part of this company, I would be looking for other opportunities. But if I know, oh, I just got to hit this milestone and then I can get further, I'm not distracted by those other opportunities because I have the path in front of me. So I try to do that with the people that I bring on to understand them and their goals. And then how can I place them there? Even though this is still new, I still have that in my mind of like, asking them, where is it that you want to go? You know,
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Well, all right, I think we're good to go. I appreciate everyone for watching. Is there one piece of advice that you want to drop? Just like one sentence, maybe two sentences about taking action, anything like that? You want to leave the people with some?
you're going to hear this all the time, but yeah, take action, but embrace loneliness. There's going to be a period where it's going to be very isolating, but through that isolation, you're going to learn more about yourself than you've ever learned in your entire life. And it'll shape you to become the person that is able to handle 10K a month, 20K a month, 30K a month. Because if somebody just handed me or Hayden Amazon and said, hey, here's the reins, be like, can't handle this. Like, what the hell? So embrace the pressure, and you need to go through the eating dirt phase to get to the next level. And you're always, the grass is greener, but then there's always another patch of dirt on the other side.
Never ending. All right, guys,
Never
appreciate you guys watching this one. Ryan, peace out, brother.
Later.